Keep Out. Area 51, warning, keep out. So stay tuned, and we'll be back. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with Gary.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. And thank you.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
That is me. We're talking with Timothy about his great book about Area 51, Stay Out. Hey, Timothy, are you still there?
Yes. No, I've left the planet.
Well, I feel like that sometimes. I feel like I really would like to leave it. But I do want to say one thing. You know, again, if you're going down there, one of the people will want to go see Area 51, go buy a case of water and put it in your trunk at least, you know. You'll have plenty of water to drink. And if you get desperate for gas money, I'm sure you can get $5 a bottle for that water.
I would think so. You know what I wanted to point out, and I did this in the Area 51 Warning Keep Out book, is that Area 51 is not alone as far as military bases and all to go to, where people believe that either there is reverse technology taking place there, you know, UFO captured craft and so forth, or even aliens, either in captivity or protective custody or wandering around on their own. You could take it any way that you want, but there are other places in other countries. There's Pine Gap in Australia, which is actually co-owned or operated, or however you want to describe it, by the CIA. And this is, in fact, I think they stamped out the same warning signs from Area 51 that you see along the highway. We published a couple of those in the book. And the people who live in the vicinity, which probably aren't too many because they think it's way out of the way, it's kind of like Australia's version of Area 51 in Rachel. They see UFOs on a regular basis and believe that they may be headquartered there at Pine Gap. And if you get the book or you go on the internet, you can find out quite a bit about this location where these triangular disc-shaped craft have been seen on a regular basis. In England, there's another place there. There's a couple of places of secure places in England where these craft have been seen nearby. There's a place called Rudlow Manor, which apparently goes deep underground. And some of the local ufologists took their cameras and went up to the gate. The place is actually surrounded by a gate instead of a fence. And they talked to the guards, and at first the guards were kind of, friendly, or they weren't hostile to them, but they came back, like a month later, and they were less friendly, and I think they got their cameras confiscated and were told to keep their distance and not come back. Now, this Rudlow Manor goes back to, I think, World War II. It was the base where a lot of the decoding was done, and it was deep underground. In fact, I've seen photographs that were taken. I'm not sure necessarily by who. And, there are machines that burrow and slice through sides of the mountain. I don't know if you've seen some of these devices. You can find them by Googling them. They are huge, and they look like giant fans almost. And they will cut a tunnel, going as deep down as you could possibly get. Now, the Soviet Union has a place called Rustin Yar, Y-A-R, where apparently a craft there was an encounter with a craft, a UFO, a dogfight, and the craft was shot down near this military base, and the craft, I guess, was reversed, so that they could build their own version of this ET vehicle. And there have been a lot of sightings in the vicinity, in the towns nearby in this, what was the former Soviet Union. And, of course, it's a top-secret base, and if you want to find out more about it, you probably have to ask the CIA.
Very interesting. I got to ask you a question. What made you write this book? What motivated you?
Well, people say, how can you do a book so quickly? I actually did a book the other day in 2 days on Nikola Tesla. I've been doing this since 1965. I've got 40 file cabinets full of information, everything from letters that were sent to me over the years. People used to communicate in the mail. Now I can go a week without getting a letter or an order, because they all mostly come through Amazon.com, of course. Why did I do this book? Well, I had all this information. I was editor for 11 years of a newsstand publication called UFO Universe, and we published a lot of material. In fact, we were the first to publish articles by Bill Hamilton and others, Preston Dennett, about Area 51 and some of these super secret projects. And so with all the press coming out and talking about this event, we thought first of all, it might be financially in our favor to put out a book on the topic, but also to tell the real story about Area 51, because most of the other books on the subject are just not, they don't approach it in the same way. I mean, our books are kind of like magazines, because that's my background. Over the years, I packaged probably 30 different newsstand magazines on a variety of subjects. Everything from a magazine called The Front Page Disasters to a publication that only lasted one issue called Moped Action. Well, you can imagine, Gary, there's not much action on a moped.
Well, unless you're in France and you got a good-looking hot babe behind you.
And I think in the Caribbean, some of the countries, they have long, winding roads that are not very wide, and they use mopeds. But at that time,
I gotta say something because you mentioned you came out with a publication. I was retired from broadcasting for 10 years, and then Art called me up, a couple of years, 2 Septembers, going on 3 Septembers ago, and said, "Hey, Gary, get rid of your Harley. Why don't you get back on the radio and get on internet? I'll help you any way I could." And he gave me a lot of advice to get going. But he said, "Hey, pick a subject that's good." Well, I've been riding motorcycles, almost all my adult life. So my first show, not being commercial. Okay, this is on my own endeavor. Big mistake.
Yes.
It was called Motorcycle Talk.
Motorcycle Talk.
And after a month, Art called me up and he goes, I bet you don't have any listeners, do you? And I said, Art, I think I have 13. And he goes, okay, what have you done the whole time I've known you? And I said, I've done paranormal. Well, why did you do Motorcycle Talk? Well, because I love motorcycles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I came to a conclusion. Nobody listened.
Well, there's probably an audience out there, but you've got to, with any of this, you have to find a way to reach them. Maybe a sign or a poster up in every Harley Davidson shop or something. I don't know.
I don't know.
But,
it's funny.
Well, we didn't last any longer with moped action. It lasted one issue, and it was colorful. But the thing that killed the mopeds was at one point you did not need a license to drive them, so that younger people, 13, 14, 15, who could not get a driver's license, and in a lot of parts of the country, they could legally drive a moped. Well, somewhere along the line, somebody decided that was not safe, either for pedestrians or the teenagers or for people driving in cars. And little by little, or maybe all at once, as far as I can recall, there were laws that you needed to be, of the legal driving age in order to get a license to drive a moped. So it killed for a long time the moped business, which I think is making a slow comeback now, because in some places around the country, perhaps even in New York now, they can drive mopeds or motorized bicycles. Now, one of the stories that we did, which was kind of funny, we found a police precinct in Manhattan where they were using mopeds. And so I went to do an interview with one of the cops. And he was a very nice officer, but he said, you can't make it up a hill. If there's ice on the road, you're not going to go very far. And he said on several occasions he had to abandon the moped and run after the perpetrator. So I think even the police department, you could probably buy some used mopeds with the blue and white stripes on them or something, that says NYPD on them.
I had a moped. I couldn't get up the hill, and that's, I go, I bought it because, you know what? I could go to work and back, a 20-mile trip, and I tell you what, like $3 would last all week compared to like my Harleys, which drank as much gas as a car. Yes.
Well, I have not driven in a while. I loved to drive when I was out west. Beautiful country. You can relax. You got to watch out at night that you don't run into a horse, believe it or not. There were so many horses in the daytime you would see that would line the side of the road that had been hit, because I guess like other animals, they're drawn to the headlights and don't realize that the drivers, you don't see them till the last minute, and it's kind of a grisly sight. But other than that, driving that part of the country, you can put it on cruise control and just see some of the most beautiful parts of America.
Oh, yeah. So are you coming out with a sequel to Area 51 or anything else?
Well,
do you plan?
I've got a book that's just been out for a couple of weeks. It's doing rather well. It's called The Space People Speak, Transmissions from the Solar Council. It's about the people who claim to be in touch, usually by channeling, but sometimes face-to-face, with members of the Ashtar Command. I don't know if you're familiar with Ashtar, but Ashtar is the main ET who guides kind of guards the planet and guides Earthlings who they're in touch with in their spiritual development. There's a fellow here in New York by the name of Mark Brinkerhoff, who is what I call a UFO repeater. He is one of the people that have the ability, the uncanny ability, to go out with their camera and take photographs of the sky, and when the video or the